other product that we didn't offer, and that was the 1 acre lots. The R110 is inconsistent with the general plan, and again, it's one of the few opportunities for mixed waterfront in the city. Sewer service, I'll talk a little bit about. I don't want to get bogged down in this as a technicality, but it is important to be aware of. So in 2014, the plan proposed the use of septic systems for individual 1 acre lots. The city, initially, the response of the city is that we did not have capacity to sewer this site. And our existing capital facilities plan indicates that this is below where we want to serve with sewer at this point in time. Now, the project engineer and the city engineer have been talking, and there may in fact be capacity because of the way things have built out. And but the master plan certainly currently does not show that. And so if you were to move forward with this at some point, you'd have to have a condition of approval that the sewer be worked out, either the master plan amendment to actually serve this with sewer, or the city could tie into whatever Toguayo's going to do in the future. And Toguayo certainly does not, we do not have capacity for Toguayo. And they are talking about the possibility of some kind of a package plant or a plant that would just serve the Toguayo development. There's also been discussions about whether another sewer plant belongs down there. And so it's a little bit in flux as this area continues to develop in the south part of Saratoga Springs. So in response to the Planning Commission's negative recommendation, the applicant went back and proposed what they thought might make sense for a plan that utilizes the mixed waterfront zone. And what they're looking at right now, this is just a sketch plan just for really discussion purposes only. But they would be willing to look at something that the majority would be single family, 107 single family lots, and then 59 townhomes that would be close to, or in the mixed waterfront zone, but closer to the lake. And then 2 commercial parcels, which is 3.88 acres, and then over 10 acres of open space in the lakefront area and in the mixed waterfront. So what we're looking for direction on tonight, this work session is being held at the request of the applicant. But I've sort of defined these issues for discussion because we need direction as well. So we'd like you to ponder whether the mixed waterfront in this location is still really important to you, and how important is that? And if it's important, what's your vision for a mixed waterfront, especially in this location? What kinds of things do you think make sense here? I mean, we talked about a reception center possibly, and what the applicant's point of view is that if there are these 2 commercial pads, that at some point in the future, when there's more population down there, then there probably will be need for commercial, hopefully commercial related to the lake. They're not willing to really identify what that looks like right now, but they are willing to designate 2 commercial parcels for development in the future. And then, does the City Council support the change in residential density from 1 acre lots to 10,000 square foot lots? And is the City Council comfortable with moving forward with this project without resolving the sewer service issue? Or can it be a condition of approval? Some of the planning commissioners felt like it was kind of getting the cart before the horse. Others were comfortable with whatever moves forward with it being a condition of approval. So that is the presentation. I think the applicant would like to address you folks. There was also a letter that was attached to your staff report from the applicant that was trying to explain their thinking at this point. Do you have any questions?
Nope. If we'll let the applicant, if you have anything to say, or if you'd like to come up and take a seat, then the council can ask questions as we discuss this. If you'd state your name for the record.
Susan Palmer.
Ben Lakey.
Okay. Do you have anything you'd like to say before the council starts?
Sure, just really briefly, I wanted to address a couple of things that she had mentioned. The inconsistency with the general plan. We feel that the current 1 acre lots is very inconsistent with the general plan. Obviously, the main issues that we see are that the current zone has 0 open space requirements. It has the ability to create a wall along the lake of private use, of a wall of homes that buffers the lake from public use. It also has no waterfront attractions, and it has no mixed uses whatsoever. It's just 1 acre lots, really. On top of that, the project right to the north of this is zoned R110, and up above that is developed. This is really kind of the first project in the line of what the city council has approved in the general plan as the vision of having the mixed waterfront zone. And so we would like to take the opportunity to zone it to that now. We would love to help to see a little bit of a vision of what we're going to do with the commercial space, and we have positioned it in a place that should position, it's right up against the lake, and it's on the south side of the property where it could be connected to additional commercial space on the further south developments, and it's right next to the open space that we've put there next to the lake as well. And two of the benefits of doing that is that the purpose of the mixed waterfront zone is to create attractive landscaping, attractive parks, many different housing styles and types and product types, and that the density should be focused around the waterfront with decreasing density as you move away from the waterfront. And those are the main factors that we've considered from the general plan in designing the plan that we've designed. We've put the multifamily close to the lake and close to the open space. We have put some lakefront single-family lots, as well as some lower density up as you get closer towards Redwood. And this allows it so that there is one requirement in the mixed lakefront zone that any open space that's common space, the developer shall record a public access easement at plat recordation to any adjacent public open space or access to the waterfront. And with our current plan, what that would do is it would make it so that we have to dedicate public easement, public access to most of that open space there, and leave open for the to create a public use of the lake and to create a commercial use of the lake right next to it. That, like I said, we would love to entertain any options. We have really limited vision of what we can do with that at this time. But if we can rezone it now, it preserves the space for the future development as Tequayo comes in. I think there's 3,500 or 3,600 homes with that development. As that begins to come in and the rooftops come in, certainly more commercial options become once those rooftops come in. So that's really the feedback that we're looking for from the mayor and the council.
Okay.
And one clarification, regardless of whether it's RR or R110, they will be required to build the Redwood Road Trail and also the lake. So.
Okay. Jessica?
First of all, I've taken the time to forward the plan. It is a big the previous take of the lakefront, the previous. Things as far as like homes, density there, 4 lots that come into that open space. This is how it is there. That layout actually. I do have a question for staff. That's that north corner. Was that part? That little corner there.
Yeah, let me, yeah, Lighthouse.
It's the property owner to the north property as well.
Right.
It's
not their development that's been involved, but they do property as well. And ag.
Okay. So, I'd different in Stanford, the townhomes and that space there to create a little bit more over the rest of that neighborhood. Because we'll see with the townhome that there is going to create a residence completely takes lakefront use or the view. And one other question on that, I really need to be figured. That's going to be a problem if it's not figured out. To approve something like this, I would have big questions about that. And that's time, Mayor.
Council.
So, with some, I think that the sewer needs out. Normally, I'm kind of okay, and the solution's fairly obvious. We just need details. Seem more likely to be an issue. I don't want to create that can't be. And so I think that we need to figure, a lot of, we may have capacity and stuff. I do have capacity before I'm ready for something. But we're creating a corner that's going to be developed in an island. No, it's not your property. But if you reach the lighthouse, see if you get it or something like that. I mean, we can't just create, I don't know what it is, but it looks roughly the same as your commercial. I guess it's 3 years, just going to be cut off and not be usable. That's what we're supposed to try as a plan. And I can see the with the townhomes and kind of a wall. I'll stay differences with the current plan. Lots. We're dealing with the edge of a city. I know that I was there. This is one of the few cases where 1 acre exist. See that disappear completely. I think at your lakefront, they are viable. I guess we can agree on that. The commercial. I appreciate you, because when I first saw that's useless place commercial, not near marina. Realize you guys don't bore marina, but I get your that you're on there so that theoretically it could go on to the south. My biggest concern when the plan was you have this commercial obviously be developed right now, just because there's not that down there to support it. And what happening is a subsequent land of that comes in 10 years and says, well, you tried, but we couldn't build it, so we want to put homes. And the main waterfront is not waterfront, it's just high density house. That's what I see happening there, is just because it's out in the city. To answer questions, I'll be honest, the mixed waterfront zone is we don't know that this is for the city we want in. I may be correct, but this may be something that slipped by. We approved the general plan. We caught real Aspen Hills and that, but the changes on this one may bias, and would be interested in exploring mixed from south. It is supposed to have more dense effect, and I don't necessarily being a good southern edge of the, but only one of, so I have to else Nora that meet away on. Right.
Okay. Councilman.
So I was here in 2014. The advantage of being here on the locations, hearing what we were about, very specific, we talked about even at the time. And these one being and then really by any high density of more the business. So a lot of view being preserved. And I wanted to remind myself, I went to my big folder. Sometimes it's easier to bring it down through the and that it was the case. Those are the business, more open park. Actually, I think there's a park right there. So we felt to play well the 1 acre lot. Another reason why the septic, I'm not a huge fan of septic, but with the 1 it made sense at the and it still makes sense. And I, to be honest with you, care if they're in the, because sometimes question just a resident, not just a council member, but who's on that pumping line, the things that come because of so much, deal with trying to move to lines to the issues that we have pumping lines, and with entitled things that are can come. I'm in of the lots and line while and you them and you went on the I can't remember the lower treatment sewer. Then I at that when that happened consider some other development, but I probably would see more than a third. Well, I live in about a 3rd acre. They're in high demand, and will contact me because they know, and hey, do you know these 3rd acres left and that kind of. There aren't any left down the golf course. I think we changed on, did it purposely, to have a variety, and that is the right that was given property. Change them and in favor of making it so it's not city necessarily more dense, 40 to 137. That's a lot. That would just making it sense, and what I'm trying to accomplish as a city council member at this time. Thanks.
Hey, Councilwoman Barr.
Thank you, Councilman Combra. During that time, he's in that history. The 1 acre, not because of capacity, we want lots because we wanted in houses and lot types. Still need that. I see absolutely nothing to decrease size in this rezone it. Honestly, I think you're probably, this is one we actually missed corrections on the general plan. I do think even slightly missed to the south, closer to the action point where eventually we're all go across the lake, be a very appropriate the very appropriate transit oriented, and it'll be a place to have the marina and all of that, exactly, boardwalks and all the business aspect of the lakefront. I think this is one of those kind of missed. Also, there's no way that change anything with the sewer connections. If you back once you connect connections out and change from to hooking into this with the same lots, I would be okay. Just a note for staff, and I realized it was Matt consultant doing it and not directly with our consultants, again, gone to developers before they brought a final to us or even a to us, must stop. It is wholly inappropriate for doing that. So please chastise them before I do. Yeah, so that what into our contract is all of this is being again. I mean, last time it was MAG, but really discussing those items before the get.
Yeah. So, and I'm certainly looking to insert myself in this particular dialogue. I think it is fair. For some of our clients, they do an extensive modeling for us. They have, and so okay, model out. There's a lot of work right now on a lot of our disaster infrastructures. So I can understand. They're like, well, yeah, in addition, this might, but it's policy direction. Council needs to make a decision on it. So obviously, you know, there's a whole lot of different dominoes to fall, and that's true of engineering questions from a study standpoint. But you know, we did authorize to look into as part of the developer. I don't want the black eye. We are working with them in conjunction, but just you know, it may be policy direction that they can take.
So anyway, so this goes. I'm aware of the, and I think that we need to back at that front.
Yeah, I agree to remove. So I just wanted person as well. We need to remove that.
Councilman Wilden?
Echo some comments, or I wouldn't moving forward have no sewer solution in place. And we did, there's maybe a mistake, remember that we spent the time tweaking the big tank code to work, and I understand change, but it is disappointing that the cities, staff, council, and the mayor, quite a bit of effort, create some code that would development now, trying to back a bit on it. Similarly, you know, this is owned RR, even though the general plan says waterfront, I don't think in town an opportunity for homes. And if you're familiar with the city, there is some conditions out there we make, and we hold to what's have asked us to do is increase density. And for me, the time that I considered getting a really benefit to the city, not creating city, but higher content of homes, it feels a really great benefit. And I know you're trying for some commercial space there, but we have a little bit further north. They had commercial there and sitting there for years. Now they move it around so because it's the right. So this goal we can all acknowledge quite far off, and in 8 years, whenever the time comes to develop, at that point, still not plan for commercial. A request to own it from home if it's not you, developer. If I'm shaking a 8 ball, that happen, and that's with another development. just address, I do, you coming in and dealing with this position, but again, point is that the right place when we have no that we can point to. I shouldn't say no, we don't have a sewer system, and the increasing with really benefit existing residents.
Good. Do you guys have any more questions?
We were just code on the front, so that's is where it's at. So you're aware of that. Why we want the city code. So
Yeah, and commission request that some members of the commission felt mixed in this area still might be at some point in the future. So they direction, or they seem to that maybe looking with mixed was a way to go. So the applicant respond there.
Well, and to be fair, that's the planning commission's
Right.
job. They're supposed to look, they're supposed to look at the land and say what fits and doesn't.
Right.
The fact that we made a mistake on use map as we were in that area, that we would have taken, we have zoned as residential and changed it. I'm pretty sure that's a mistake on our part. So
Okay.
the plan absolutely did their job. Really
Kind of a mistake it was. Why would we go for lots on the great view corridor? You'd have huge size.
Well, where
denser.
the legislature is moving towards trying to land use, especially around our state roads. If that's the case, Mount they're going to come in higher density all around view corridor. So why would we take? We're going to have, and this is going to be the left. Doesn't make sense.
yeah, so I just as we understand it's the 1 acre lot, exactly what the city council for, and we will.
So with the 1 acre, if you work with, they do find the sewer option would work instead of the second. We would open to look at them if there is that that's free of other reduced in density. So I would be to that. I would.
Mayor and Council, on that front, we'll be looking at the plans as our FP and master plan updating months. So you'll see that currently extend that. I think that there's actual obligation to Guayo that becomes really sticky if sewer has opened up. They're going to and they have for it. Those are some comments.
They've also got pumps and gravity other than just capacity.
There's of issues on that area, which is, the hard line at Beacon Point, and so that's got some concerns and issues. And the developer was also the developer project, and they threw everything at Beacon Point was I think their direct. And lots of ground. We certainly appreciate the working with them and appreciate your feedback. Nora, is there anything else?
Just to wrap it.
Yep.
I just want to say I appreciate you being the planning commission, commentary and stuff like that. I think you can have a good working relationship that gets some works with you as the city and that thing. So thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. We will to this policy meeting, Saratoga, on Tuesday, October 17th, 2017, at 5 p.m. Present, we have Councilman Paul, Councilman Barch, Comber, Councilman Padette. Ask Comber have Isaiah from Troop 1226 will lead us in our pledge tonight.
Dear and gracious Heavenly Father, as we come before Him, we are truly grateful that was grateful for the opportunity we have in such a beautiful. And Lord, we ask this thing upon us this evening that we'll be able to take consideration of the city and into the future and continue of what we would like Saratoga Springs to become, and the residents of Saratoga Springs ability. These things in their amen.
Please rise. Repeat the pledge with me. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be.
Thank you. Okay, public time has been set for the public to express ideas and comments. Please be on your comments. Try to avoid comments and try to limit your comments to minutes. Is anybody here for input tonight? Seeing none, I will close the public input portion. Tonight from the council. We'll start with Councilman Porter.
Able to attend the breaking up on items for the Special Forces group, for lack of a better term. They have a lot of different names for it. Training, whatever you want to. They're using it for a lot. It's a great facility. It's going to look really beautiful. I think the people will see as they're driving toward 21 and say that, you know, it's a cold military, blocky. So it's I think it's help with the readiness that James is able to provide to the troops. That was a fun thing to do today.
Councilwoman Barch.
Thing is just our legislative meeting that we had. Steve attended that. Councilman, oh my gosh.
Will.
Milton and Owen Jack, the manager, and I attended. And there was not talk about the stuff we've had with the things before. Watch, but the majority of our time we took talking about the transplant funding, and their various ways that they want that. The thing is looking at seriously takeover and various governance facilities along with, yeah. So, to their methods. So see how that goes. We'll watch closely, and then with that. So talking about being the level of on your property or house. So normally you've got a discount on your house, on your primary house, decrease that, various things that they're talking about. So we'll see what happens. It'll be exactly. It'll be a very interesting legislative session. We'll just put it that way. So that's the biggest thing. Thanks.
Okay.
Translate, that would mean your property taxes would go way, way up. So, because of the state, yeah.
Not us.
Not us.
Okay, really quick, mention to you a little bit the canal up in Harvest, that clean. Councilman Will with some of the canal and getting that cleaned. I believe you were going to check with staff and get back to us.
One comment along to Mark, we were talking to staff, kind of a wholesale slash and burn canal in the past, and there are some flora that is great. They've got some beautiful, very native white that are part of that, and every year they come and burn them down instead of letting it flourish, and what comes back is the unwanted weed. Those areas where they are from the edges of the canal and suck water direct canal, it'd be really nice if they could leave some of that and of that kind of flora to
keep the good stuff. of the landscape we have.
We also need to talk about the phragmite too, because it's, you can't just go burn that.
Yeah, and
So they
actually
need to
makes it,
take it
actually
out.
makes it when you burn it.
It likes to.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilman McComber?
I just wanted to, I was, the wing of Redwood Road, getting ready to move to the east side, and I haven't, someone was gonna reach out to me, I can't remember who you assigned, Mark, for the trees, and I hadn't heard anything, so, who it was. The budget and the highest quality trees, the best chance of survival. I just don't bureaucracy to get of killing trees. I mean, so I think we're making a valiant effort, more than what would be expected to save these trees. And I appreciate also if we could get an update the project on Facebook page and just being a little bit more of maybe every just from when UDOT they're at. I just feel like as a city we should be in the lead on that, and residents, and so they're calling, getting that information, posting it, to see us running from a municipal side, even UDOT's project.
UDOT actually put weekly.
Yeah, we could even take a section of that and just throw, because it's on that email. I am, and but I just, especially on phones, you talk to, because they have a person assigned to the project, and want to reach out to them, that PR, and have them present key milestones, like when cones are going to be. That's a great one. Heads up, because changing in driving, most accidents is because of habits, and especially when they ride the entrance, and it cause a lot of problems.
I am in contact with our person. They do present to me. I've been the approach of trying to defer people to them and to UDOT to come. UDOT take the lead and spokesperson for the project, their project. But I think at the point we can do more updates. I'll just maybe
link them.
Yeah, because I really need to lead on the project, because residents they think that we're doing the project. Complaints come to us. It take us out as a middleman and make sure they know that they're going out to UDOT. Although we want to let us know if maybe they're not getting the response. Well,
not getting, but at the same time, going on to Facebook's, they're not even on Facebook page, and so pretty tricky. If you're not, it can get pretty tricky. So make sure that we're communicating pretty. And I understand I have an update to the Dalmore Meadows, so I'll let this a little bit later.
Councilman Wilden?
As woman, what's already mentioned, Councilwoman Barr went to the league. She already had pass on that. Miller on
Canal.
Thank you. Other items, but I've already gone, and we can address it another meeting versus now. And I don't think we've had a council meeting since the fall harvest. So thank you to the staff. I don't think she's not here right now. Yeah, and all the it was a fantastic event. I took my 5 kids, and they had I saw a number of people there.
I think we tripled our attendance.
And the police did a great job managing the truck. It was much better than the year, at least that was observation.
I'd like to make an observation. I love the increased amount in disabled part. That was absolutely genius, and having the rope and adding the all to come to the event. Normally, I mean, someone who would have to walk is not going to come if they, have a pass to go in. And so, just fantastic. Walking off the one side Aspen Hills Boulevard because of the street. Again, just, it was very well run. Good thing we did because there was as many people.
Anyway, if you could pass along, Mark, and I really appreciate the volunteers and Annalise and her staff, because there's a lot of events this year to celebrate the rise of the city. Yeah, Christmas is coming up, so they've done a fantastic job promoting this, and those type of things, I think, bring together.
Christmas tree lighting has this year. Parents, you want to...
Ryan, or Councilman Podesta, you two are just one man at the end.
Yeah, it was first time attending the library board, and so I'm happy to be part of a long range plan. Excited to see the challenge with the to better routes. So excited with all the volunteers as well that all do. That's amazing. And then looks like there's a good it's reaching out create an anti-bullying coalition between city, residents. So into that, how we can help with those efforts, and that's what I have.
Okay, Councilwoman Barch and Council at the other end, or have additional comments.
So just really quickly, one more thing about Shea Park Ball Festival. The Rain Club has 140 put in. So on that second loop, the big, so the section across the second loop has been put, several of the switch, everything else. So, and that's it. Yeah, they're, we're excited. It started at like 9. Right.
Perfect. Move on. Do you have something? Okay. Oh. Annexation can take long.
As long as you'd like it.
Okay. Quick.
Nora, you got your marching order.
Okay.
The Cliff Notes version.
Yeah, most of you are probably familiar with it.
Scouts stay because the next exciting.
Pearly Meadows annexation, R1, it's not a rezone, designating the zoning for and as well as approving the the little dot place. So the vicinity map, just in the red, is outlined where Pearly is in relation to annexations that we're working on. This is the layout. Now 112, I believe. R19 they're requesting 42 acres change to the annexation. So the petition was by the City Council on June 20th. It was certified by the City Recorder on 20th. There was a 30-day protest period on August 20th, and 19th there was a protest in Lehigh. You all know the Boundary Commission denied the protest. Utah County Commission denied the protest September 13th. We finally received a written on October. So that was action, and pursuant to the code when it goes through a Boundary Commission action, City Council can approve annexation consistent with their decision, and there's no public necessary. Just set forth a staff report, the requirements with the general plan, discuss in a special consideration for the road right-of-way. That will be an exhibit ordinance, and that for decrease slightly the trips to maintain the pavement width, but a 56 right-of-way rather than 50. So the motion to approve findings and conditions in your staff report, answer to reject the or continue action if you need additional information.
And one add to this is Banner decision was on approval by commission association since is involving the an unincorporated land and peninsula. So the commission, we've been told to meet on October 3rd to approve this, but that's really for the applicant's information as well. I understand the last hurdle go to Lieutenant Governor's office.
Do we need that condition that it's the county?
You certainly, but I mean, it's not necessary because the boundary committee already made a condition.
Okay, perfect.
We'll
itching to make
slow it down if we don't get that on the.
Okay. Looked at several times. I would move approve Meadows annexation dated as on the agenda as business with all of the stuff that all in conditions.
Gordon?
First from Council. And I can't say Councilman Barch. Any further motion?
No, and I'd just like to point out supportive of this. This is also my residents. Be a great addition.
Podeska, Wilden,
Aye.
McConnell,
Aye.
Barch.
Aye.
Aye. Motion unanimously. Next on the is the bid for Patriot Park action, resolution 17-95. Jeremy?
Council, we had a very successful opening yesterday. Prices considerably lower than our previous bid opening. 3 bids. The lowest was Kenny Sane Construction in the amount of $8 million.
Can you picture the ball fields? Somebody have that? What you they're looking?
I don't know if that was that put in the.
You need to hold it while you're talking to us. Didn't hear me.
Okay, you can talk.
All of it, so.
You need that while you're giving this.
8.6 million, which was actually $0.4 million bid, so really good there. Saying indicated that they intend to do this very aggressively. We did a lot of research on their website, and we received glowing references. A variety of people who said that they've recommended, and so that amount we also included in your Dropbox. The other amounts the city will directly to save money. We did a lot of other facilities, such as the build, surfacing, the lighting, and independently. Which this bid brings the total park cost estimate to I think $11.47. So, questions? Happy to answer your questions. Just we're really excited.
Been a long time coming.
I believe Kenny's saying bid on this bid was $4 million lower. They provided.
Can you check different alternatives?
Yes. It was alt 1 was to convert the drainage pipe to plastic pipe. That would have provided a reduction in about $1,600. Staff didn't. That was a action that warranted the increased risk that come with sensitivity that material requires during installation. So obviously it's not as concrete pipe, and so it has to be installed a lot more carefully, and then it doesn't have stability as much. So we didn't feel $16,000 what really gave the city the benefit of changing that material. The other 3 bids really with the drain. So we had 2 options. We could the base drain everything 400 south where there's a ditch. That ditch will be piped as part of the, and then there's a goes on our Saratoga Road to the alternative bid was to a retention at the northeast corner of the site, and left remaining capacity in the for future development, and would have incorporated as part of a future development of that site to the east of there as part of an on-site drainage. Would have actually been a reduction of about $54,000. It cost about $20,000 to excavate the pond, but then there was a reduction of $90,000 less piping, with a net of about $54,000. And staff didn't with that is there was a lot of unknown future costs of the development of that site and what it would take to deal with it. And so we felt it was better to deal with the drainage now and be done, and you also fund it obviously with the park funds that we're using now, and to kind of kick the can away and have an unknown liability in the future dealing with it. You know, there's honestly arguments either way, but we felt it was leave anything unresolved perspective and just be a standalone project that doesn't have any issues that need to be addressed. I guess is the best way of putting it. That's why we also didn't recommend of alternate 1B, 2. The 2B was the B was the reduction. 1B had to do with whether you're plastic or concrete again.
And ultimately, $25,000 bonds that we're just going to have to later just didn't have use of resources at this point.
Yeah. And a motion. A long time coming. President said last week, it's fitting the field.
If you build it.
We have a groundbreaking tomorrow, I think at 6
yes,
p.m.
6 p.m. tomorrow, groundbreaking for the baseball.
I move we approve the award for the construction Resolution R17-95 dated to awarding to Kinney Sanction in the amount of $891,056.
I have a first from Councilman, but I can't. I have a second from Councilman Padilla. Any further discussion? Councilman?
Aye.
Arch?
Aye.
McComber? Wilden?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. There's two people I'd like to have you guys Hessen for your work. There's put a lot of work into our sports program with the design of this ballpark.
Sarah also was part of that, as was Councilman Porter.
So thank you. Thank you for this work. There's been a lot of work to get this to where it's at and a lot of input from residents to meet the needs. Heston, you've done a great job in finding out what we need to make a program run successfully, so thank you. Okay, David, you have...
These shirts for you guys during groundbreaking. I want to interchangeably call it the grand opening, but like so.
Spring of 2019.
So, you know, we got an extra small for Councilman Porter.
Perfect. Thank you.
So, okay, do you have something, Mark?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If you can make it tomorrow night, groundbreaking, 6 o'clock, to start construction on the ball fields. So, any of the scouts that play baseball? Anybody? Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That's good. Okay. Well, thank you. We will move on to the Harvest Hills plat amendment. Plats F and A.
Okay, this is an extension
Doesn't sound
request.
right.
This was approved 2 years ago, and they are still working out the final details of that. So this is in the Harvest Hills development for lots abutting a portion of the old abandoned railroad berm. And some of that land will be incorporated into those lots, so the properties that you see here. And then the plat extension will allow them another year to wrap that up.
That was really short.
Well, that's really short.
Okay.
So is there a reason why they need a full year to wrap this up? I mean, they can't get this done in 3 months. They can't get this done in, it's been dragging on forever, and they're just going to
I
come
think
back
they
and
plan
do
to
it
get
again.
it done sooner than the 12-month period, but I just thought it would be wise that if we gave them 3 months and it didn't happen in 3 months, that they didn't have to come back and ask again.
Got it.
Kevin can pontificate if you'd like.
No,
No, it's really okay.
We're good.
I guess the only other thing that I'm concerned, and it was in there, but I want to make sure that it's reiterated. It was in the original agreement, but reiterated that they can't actually build anything on the berm, and they can't alter that slope. That's one of those things that could actually undermine our trail and the stability of that berm. So it wasn't in our original discussion, but just to reiterate, that would be great.
Okay. I will entertain a motion.
I'm not going to do them all.
Shall I go?
Yes.
I'll move that we approve the Harvest Hills plat amendment plats F through A. Extension request, Ridge Point Management LLC applicant. Leaf Drive and Ginger Place with 12 months extension with any staff and finding condition. Any staff findings and conditions.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a first from Councilman Wilden, a second from Councilman McComber. Any further discussion? Porter?
Aye.
Tedesca?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
McComber?
Aye.
Barch?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We have the Legacy Farms Village Plans 3 through 5, plats 3A, 4A through D, and the villas. Removals from the agricultural protection zone.
Thank you. So as stated before you tonight is a request to remove the agricultural protection area for the remainder of the Legacy Farms project. The orange area has already been removed from the agricultural protection, and the area highlighted in red, 3A, 4A through 4D, as well as the villas, is under request tonight. Staff recommends the council review this proposal and vote to approve the removal.
Any discussion on removing this? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
Fine. I'll move to approve the removal of 47.5 acres from the agriculture protection area and approve the notice of removal contained in Exhibit C of the council materials and any staff findings and conditions.
Okay, first from Councilman Wilden.
I'll second.
Second from Councilwoman Barch. Any further discussion? Tedesca?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Barch?
Aye.
Comber?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
I think that's a record for you, almost.
You might make it home before midnight tonight.
Just so you know, we've had some long, very long conversations with Chris L.
Okay, Fox Hollow, N5, preliminary plat.
Okay. This is located just off of Village Parkway and also off of the portion of wildlife that's recently been extended. This map here indicates the open space areas within the Fox Hollow development. So within Neighborhood 5, there isn't any open space that needs to be improved other than some trail connection corridors, and the development agreement requires them to do off-site open space in an east to west direction. So they will be completing a portion of the Redwood Road Trail, a portion, and then 2 portions of the drainage channel, as you're seeing here. And then this particular exhibit indicates their acreage requirement. So 5.36 acres of open space will need to be improved with this development. And then the figure in green will be contributed to the regional park to help pay for the a portion of the water shares and things like that prior to the city improving that park. There are variations being requested to minimum lot size and then also to setbacks. And then Neighborhood 5 is proposed to have several phases, as you see in these different slides here. So this is all of it here. And then the plats will come in phases. And so the preliminary plat is for all of these phases. I'll just flip through these. And then There's the area shown hatched in green here will be dedicated to the city and will also be part of the park. It can be used for a parking area. However, our city engineer has indicated the grade may pose a challenge for that. If it's not used for parking, it can still be incorporated into the park. This is a potential parking layout to show that it can be used for that. However, it would be designed and constructed by the city in the future. And then these are the landscape plans for the Redwood Road Trail, and then the drainage channel. I've had one request from the HOA. This is slated to be a native area, and they're asking that we leave the native vegetation rather than reseed because they have had better experience with the appearance of the native vegetation that's already there. And so if the trail can cause minimal disturbance, they would prefer that. And so what you could do is add a condition that final approval of this be delegated to staff. Right now it does require reseeding. So we haven't had a chance yet to discuss that with our park supervisor, and we'd like to do that to get his feedback on it. And then here's another portion of the drainage channel just further up, and they'll be adding the trail, and then this is also designated for native vegetation. These are walkways connecting neighborhood streets to the drainage channel trail, and the HOA has asked that grasses and shrubs be installed in addition to the rocks, and that's a condition in the staff report. This is a proposed fencing exhibit. It complies with the code, and then some landscaping details. And then the open space areas also need to be platted, and so these next 3 slides are the open space plats. And because this is a PUD, we're required to review the architecture. So this has been reviewed by the Development Review Committee and also by the HOA, and we have a preliminary letter from the HOA indicating conditional approval. And then one other thing that the HOA has brought up is the fencing for the backyards that abut the major streets, which would be Wildlife and Village Parkway. Our code requires that if there's a trail, that it be semi-private fencing. And I believe that one of those has a trail and one of those doesn't. And the applicant has requested if that could be solid to a certain height and then semi-private across the top. And aside from having anything distinct about the fencing in here, staff recommends approval with the conditions in the staff report.
Yeah.
And the applicant is here and also the HOA president.
Is the applicant?
No, she did a great job.
Okay. Perfect. Tanya, do you have anything you'd like to add from the HOA?
I pretty much covered it all.
You guys can talk about that, right?
Real quickly, is the HOA okay with the fencing changes? What was your position on that?
Yes. I'll stand to make it.
Yeah, come on. You need to
We can get you on the mic.
Okay. So right now, this will be the first product that will actually have homes backing up directly to the trail along Village Parkway. Right now, the rest of the products, the closest it gets is the side yard. So right now, we have the split to rail, purely decorative fencing that goes along Village Parkway. So there will be a change of fencing. However, if we can keep the private fencing for the use of the residents and then semi-private on top to kind of allow some of the openness, we think that's probably going to be a good idea. Otherwise, what we'll be faced with if we continue the split to rail fencing all along the Village Parkway for the good looks of it. The problem then is the people that are going to back up to those roads will obviously want a private fence. So then what you're going to have is you're going to have this short little decorative fencing, and then you're going to have a 6-foot private fence right in the back of it. And you're going to have a much podge of fences, different, sorry.
Except for you can't actually do that by code. We don't allow for parallel fencing.
Okay, okay.
It would be.
Oh, okay, okay. That's good to know. So just, we talked quite a bit with the applicant about that, just because, there's the aesthetics of continuing the same fencing, But then there's also understanding that those, I believe we counted 10 homes or so that, the people's backyards will have no fencing except for the short little decorative fence in the backyard, backing up to one of the major streets. So we thought that maybe that kind of fencing would be a good compromise.
I think you're generous. Most HOAs don't do that. So be grateful that you have that, because in all the other HOAs, they make sure it stays consistent, having eyes on the trail and all of that. So, I think that's nice of you.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, Councilwoman Barch.
So first thing on the setbacks, Sarah, I tried to get a hold of you and I received no response. So on the setbacks, I know what we have for our R110, what used to be the R3 setbacks, which you have in the staff report, but does the MDA or the PUD mention anything about what the minimum setbacks are?
Oh, it doesn't.
So it's completely open and we can allow or disallow more or less whatever we want. I mean, I know it's consistency, that we want to strive for consistency, but there's no actual guideline.
Right.
Okay. So that being said, I'm okay with most of these. However, I am concerned with the greatly reduced setback on the side, on the street side yards for corner lots. And what did I say? What? Corner side, is that what it's called? Okay. And also, especially for those that would be having garages. And I'm concerned also for the front setbacks for the garages. So one of the things that we've done is we've allowed encroachment into the front setback, but we've required that the garage sit a full 25-foot back. So I'd like to see that added back in. And on the corner side lots, if there's a garage, then that needs to also go back to the 25-foot to allow for a vehicle to properly park and not hang over the sidewalk, et cetera. On all of the plats for this and on all of the titles for all of these homes, they need to have noted on there that they will be next to potentially baseball field with lights and lots of noise, and an amphitheater with lights and lots of noise. So that needs to be, and night performances, that needs to be recorded on their titles, it needs to be recorded on the plat, so we don't have any problems in the future. And I had a question on the monuments. So both Village and Wildlife actually have monuments already. What monuments were the Planning Commission talking about?
The same one, just duplicated on the other corner.
So there's one on each side of Village and each side of Wildlife? Is that what they're talking about?
Right.
Okay, very good. So that's, that's fine, I'm fine with that. Okay, so to the park. So when this originally came into us, the park and the open space on that eastern edge of your property, the western edge of the park, was very, very different. Our engineer has told us the parking lot as laid out will not work, cannot work with the grade. The way it was originally set out, we had a road going from a fairly major road to a fairly major road so that people didn't have to wind through the neighborhood in order to get to a park access. This is, I think, is probably one of the worst setups for a park I could possibly imagine. You are begging to have your residents complain about people driving through their neighborhood. So that being said, as it stands right now, the way it's set up, I'm not actually willing to accept that open space because it's not going to be viable for the park. It's going to make it a nightmare. We're going to have nothing but complaints from the residents as far as people driving through their neighborhood to get to that mountain bike area. That being said, also in order to protect those residents, I think that we actually need to be putting a fence along that area so that we don't have them encroaching into our park. Stealing the land, basically, because it's happened in other areas. So I am not pleased. I think that you have actually made our park less usable, and am very frustrated that you don't want to work with us on this. So that being said, I know you think you're going to get more money out of those lots. That's fine and dandy for you. They would have been right across the park and had great access and great views still. But I think that the rest of the neighborhood, if we left it the way it stands now, with the parking lot like it is and having to weave through the neighborhood to get there, I think it's going to cause nothing but problems. So my preference in this case is not to accept that and to make sure that that is protected from those residents. So that's it.
I can see Councilwoman Bart's point about the park, and I mean, I can't think of anywhere else where we would put a park access the depths of a development like this. It would be, make much more sense if it was along, just a major road or something like that. I mean, it's not even cutting through part of the development. You have to come in and drive through the entire thing to get to that section. So, yeah, so, so I can see that point. And as far as the 25-foot setbacks on the, for the garages, I mean, that we've done that on basically every development that it's been an option. So I for the sake of consistency, and we've got people hanging out over the sidewalk in our neighborhood, and it makes it tough for people to use the sidewalk. So so I think that's probably wise. The other setbacks, I mean, I'm assuming they're consistent with the neighboring neighborhoods, and so I don't necessarily have an issue with that.
Can I make a comment on that?
Yeah.
So the only concern is when you're looking at the setbacks, the priority always is going to be the vested density for these plats. And then everything else is going to have to be secondary to that, including the setbacks. I completely understand what you're saying. I think you'd have to
still
hear
be able to fit the houses on the lots, though. I mean,
right.
It's not affecting their ability to.
All I'm saying is I would ask the applicant if that's feasible and still allow them to utilize the full vested density that's been granted to them. That's the only issue that you have to kind of.
All right. On the advice of my lawyer, I am asking whether.
I mean, they can still they have the density, they just need to have the garages pushed back. They can still have the houses poked forward.
Yeah, that's my only concern. I don't know if it is an issue. I'm not the engineer, so I would have no idea.
I'll keep going until we get an answer, I guess. One of my original concerns was the minimum lot size, but I looked through and there's really just one lot that's that small. So my concerns with that were assuaged, I guess. What else am I supposed to be? Oh, the fencing. I'm okay if the HOA is okay with doing a different type of fence. As was said, may not be typical for HOAs to be that kind, but if they're okay with that, I'm going to defer to the HOA on making that decision. So I'm okay with the semi-private fencing. I think that was it. So.
So I appreciate, I didn't catch I'm going to be straight honest, I didn't catch that this was the development that was next to Fox Hollow Park because we didn't have the nice little map, the bigger map where it shows it, and it was just like a big circle, and I missed that. So I've been quickly going through and reading and looking at the different alignments based on that fact and what Councilwoman Bartz just brought up. And I mean, I haven't been able to fully vet it, but I'm absolutely disappointed that this is hindering the park. I worked a lot of hours to make this a great amenity for not only the residents of Fox Hollow, but the city of Saratoga Springs. I mean, this is an amphitheater, baseball field, great facility, dirt bike, where you can actually do dirt bike up in the hills and fun little obstacles that you'll be able to go over. And then to have, I'll use the word greed, play a role in how you align this, because it doesn't make sense. And I'll tell you this right now, if I happen to be able to get reelected, I'm going to plant the biggest trees possible to block any and every view that any of those homes would have. On the city's property, I'm going to plant the biggest trees I possibly can. In fact, quaking aspens are really good because they're messy and they also cover up a lot of view. I just cannot, if you want to play the game, we can play the game. This road was aligned there. We designed the park. We spent thousands of city dollars designing the park around the road alignment that was there. And so I don't believe this meets any of the long-term vision that we had in Fox Hollow. We spent a lot of time and money also negotiating and renegotiating your botched contracts within your neighborhood. I've spent 50 hours reading stuff, trying to help Fox Hollow be a success, and then to see something like this is just absolutely disheartening. In terms of setbacks, whatever the very minimum that we have to provide because of a PUD and of a contract that shouldn't even have been extended, I wish we would have just abolished it completely and started from scratch now that I'm seeing something like this. The fact that we fought to let you keep your entitlements when we didn't have to, again, disheartening. So minimum, if we have to legally give them something because of the PUD, then it will be the minimum, 25 feet because a car needs to park on there. We have done that consistently across the entire neighborhood and the city, and I think that it would be very easy to defend that we haven't we haven't given favors to other neighborhoods versus this. But absolutely, if we don't have to give concessions, I don't believe that they've done anything to warrant concessions being given.
Thank you. Specifically on the fencing, when we move forward with this, whatever time that may be, I'd like to have the fencing, like, work with kind of a condition, work with the HOA on that to make sure they get comfortable. So condition, the HOA approves that, but I know however that works, it needs some work on that. 25 feet on the garage, I think that makes sense because you can set the garage back a little bit, 5 feet, and then still have the other part of the house closer. Comfortable with, as Councilwoman Barch said, I think we need to work on the corner lots a little bit bigger setback on that, if the driveway's involved. So I don't think that's significant, but if the driveway's involved facing that, just to work through that. As far as the parking goes on the park, if it's all right with the council, I'd like to hear the HOA's thoughts on the matter.
So if you're done, I could probably take a swing at that on the park side, or we could let the applicant respond to that at a later point and address it later. Okay.
You know, and I would like, it'd be nice if we could get the parking to work and kind of work with the city a little bit on that, so we can make your development work as well as make a park work that's a good amenity for the residents. Because I do think this will be a significant cause of concern for existing residents as people go throughout their development to get to a park with limited parking the way it's structured. So that's where I am.
Let's see, so a couple of my notes here. I definitely support Parks and Rec working with the HOA as far as the natural spaces and the different trails with vegetation that needs to be put in there. Understand the semi-private fencing. I prefer that over the solid private fencing. However, concerned on those two corner lots that's for wildlife and villages or Village Parkway, of what that would do for the triangle, site triangle. Yeah. So that would have to be looked into as well. So I appreciate with the asking for the smaller lot size that there's just one or two at the most with that. However, I would be concerned with approving that minimum lot size reduction if they're redoing the whole concept plan. I'd be afraid that more of those would pop in if it's redone. And so as it stands here, I'm completely fine with that request for the lot size. But in if it has to be redone due to the park situation there. That would just be a concern. I also agree with the 25-foot setback for the garages. I'm fine with the 20-foot setback for the house or whatnot, but garages, we just know it's a big problem with parking on the driveway, hanging over into the sidewalks. Yeah, and I wasn't aware of the engineering. When did that come out? Okay. So that definitely does change up the situation. So that's all I have.
Point of clarification, Mayor. If the park is not feasible and would not be an added amenity, do they meet the open space requirements, or would they have to add more money to their pay in lieu?
They meet the open space requirement without the property that you're seeing there.
Without that property, they don't have to add any more money to pay. They meet their acreage.
We're not counting that area towards their open space.
If I could, and it was some time ago, and I can't recall when, but the applicant brought in, originally we'd planned on a road and tried to do parking along the roadway and things of that nature. We'd brought this back a while ago and actually had the conversation of trying to shift this, and really, it's kind of a flat map versus a topography map issue. And until we got into the engineering in this later rounds, did Gordon make the comment that this parking area doesn't work. We had kind of worked with the applicant to try and get them to dedicate that area to us for that parking area, and it wasn't until I believe last meeting when it was suggested that it was going to be difficult from a topography standpoint. And so, I mean, we did have the triangular conversation as opposed to the road conversation, and the applicant, suggested, if we wanted to acquire additional land and right of way, we could certainly do that, and we came back with this as a compromise. Is that correct, Doug?
Yeah.
And I apologize, I don't want to speak for you. I think you should be able to respond to the questions that have been raised, but I do want to point out that we did have that conversation, and we opted not to go and acquire basically, several of those.
But that was under the assumption that it wouldn't be driving clear through the entire neighborhood and that we also would have the ability to actually use a parking lot.
Yeah, and I recall us having conversations about that, but, I was more thinking, the building the road width and things of that nature. They asked if we would participate in building the road, and we weren't willing to necessarily do that at the time. So again, the engineering concern that was raised recently with the engineering department, it's a bit of a challenge, but it's certainly something that can be done. I don't feel that it represents bad faith, though, on the part of the developer, because we were dealing with the same set of information at the time, and so I felt like this was a representation of what we discussed back when that was before us.
Absolutely correct, Mark. We spent many, many hours working with the city on this topic, on the parking for the park. We've donated the 21 acres, or we will dedicate the 21 acres for the park as part of the development. And I believe that originally the concept plan that they must have taken the parking for the park on the west side came from a concept plan that did not meet the PAD, the Master Development Agreement, because of density issues. And in order for us to get the density that we're actually allowed 145 lots, and we're going 144 as compared to 145 to make this parking lot work. We are not obligated in any way to provide this land or provide the parking on that side for the park using our land. And we're happy to work with you. We want this development, Neighborhood 5, we want Neighborhood 5 to be the heart of Fox Hollow. It's got some incredible views up there. It's a beautiful piece of property. It's going to do very well within Fox Hollow from a standpoint of pulling the neighborhood together. It's got the bigger lots. The average square foot of the lot is about 9,000 compared to, 4,000 or 5,000, which, we're trying to make this development as strong as possible to meet the city's code. We're not being greedy about this, or we wouldn't be giving up lots. We've spent years working with the staff on this. I mean, we've had just this concept plan for almost 2 years now, working on it with the staff, and they've been great. You know, we've done a tremendous amount of work on it, and the HOA, we've worked with the HOA every single issue, and they have been awesome to work with. And all we're asking for is the ability to develop 144 lots that meet the Master Development Agreement regulations, that improve Fox Hollow, and, you know, help the city to continue to grow with a very quality product. We've got a great builder in there, Ivory Homes. They've got a great product line to put out there, and we think this is going to be a great development for the city. We're open to, you know, working with that parking area. If you want us to withdraw that area, we're more than happy to withdraw it and try to figure something else out. But as it stands, this design, this concept plan really works based off of the Master Development Agreement guidelines.
Just let me give a little bit of history on the layout of the park too. So it is a sloped park, as you recall, and there's an amphitheater and baseball diamonds, and those are more towards the other side of the park, the side that's not touching this development. And then on the top side of the park, or up the hill, there's a dirt bike track. And so with this particular triangle that you're seeing here, it could be in addition to the park, or there, I don't know what design needs would have to be met to allow for parking. The parking lot layout that's shown wouldn't work. It doesn't mean that zero parking would work there, and then there could also be on-street parking. So one benefit of having this additional property in the neighborhood, even though you do have to wind through the neighborhood, is that it allows for parking at the top of the park and foot access to the bike trail, the dirt bike paths that will be in the upper part of the park.
Amphitheater as well.
Right.
And you know, we certainly can have engineering come back with some recommendations on how to make this parking lot work in addition to that. So, I mean, fundamentally, it is above and beyond what they're required to do. And so for that, you know, but as far as, you know, solving the grade issues of that slope, you know, perhaps we can, you know, there's a lot of fill material and things on the other part of the park that need to be removed that potentially we could locate to this site to try and address some of those concerns. Obviously compaction, obviously engineering, some of those issues are things that we're going to have to work through in order to make it work. You know, but, you know, those are all things that, you know, we can certainly work towards.
I know we're talking about the park issue, but could we get an answer on the setbacks for the garage as well from the developer?
Yeah. We're okay with the 20 foot on the front of the house and 25 on the garage. That's not a problem. We need the sides though, the 15 and, Brian, what was it, 15 and 5?
15 and 5.
Yeah, 15 and 5 to make the product work.
Which I think is fine. I just don't, if there's a garage, it needs to be the full 25 instead of the 15 is my only thing. So just don't put the garage on that side.
Yep. Yeah, the garage is going to be 25. We're good with the garage.
So for me personally, I'm very concerned that we would put that kind of traffic through the neighborhood like this and make them weave through. So for me, unless that can be worked out, I don't think that we should be accepting this as parking. I think that it's a disservice to these future residents, but that's just me personally, so.
Maybe the alternative is just show it on the plat as open space dedicated to the city. It's going to be adjacent to the park, and it just could be an extension of the park.
Maybe, but I don't want to encourage on-street parking there. I mean, one of the things that we've struggled with that we have mandated now is that in front of a park like that, you've got to have a wider road because we have so many problems with parking. So I think adding to the open space and adding to the park actually just increases that problem. Instead of having some kind of parking there, you have no parking, and even worse, you've got narrow roads because those roads are already dictated by the previous MDA.
If I may, what we'd be willing to do if you're not going to accept that property, and either way is great, but we did take, if you look at the southern portion of the triangle, we did take one lot out of there to satisfy the parking requirements that the city asked us to meet of being, I think, around 80 stalls. So we did take one lot out. We'd be willing to, I know this sounds greedy, but we would be willing to take put the one lot back in, but on the other half of that, we would design it, or we would landscape it and make it part of the park rather than just leave it open.
Again, that for me goes back to, then you're creating on-street parking that's going to create a bigger problem. So I don't think that that's wise, but that's me. Because that's what we did. When we planned the park, that's what we planned for. We planned for the road going down, and we planned a bump out with parking all along that whole entire area so that you didn't have the issues that we had, plus it had the through traffic. It wasn't weaving through the neighborhoods. So that's what we had done. We had that bump out that allowed for that safety in the parking and the traffic.
Basically, we're looking at recreating Neptune Park and Sunrise Meadows Park, you know, where you got people parked all around it for whatever event's going on, and you can't get through those roads that border the park.
In the neighborhood part.
Yeah.
So there was an earlier version where the road that's kind of running through the middle came straight down. However, the slopes are too steep in there to meet our, anyway, they couldn't design it for the road to just go straight down because it ended up being too steep. So I think it was a concept version that had that just going straight down to the, you know, to that street that fronts
If I remember
the
right, the
park.
original actually connected in, it was connecting in north to south somehow also, if I remember right.
Well, there's a drainage channel on this side and then a development on this side, so it wasn't able to connect that way, but there was just the road coming straight down the middle.
Any idea how many parking spaces? I know, like, you can't shake a magic 8-ball, Gordon, but how many parking spaces would you just guesstimate that we could actually get in there?
The problem is, the problem is the difference in elevation between the road there, the figure that we're looking at, the road there at the top, and the edge of the property at the bottom. It's simple physics. And the layout that was shown to us showed, I can't remember exactly what the grade was 20% or something like that. Well, you can't have a parking lot greater than 6%. You just can't.
Gordon, before we go too much into speculating, can we study that and come back with that? I'd rather take and look at it rather than you making a recommendation. You know, I know you've looked at it, but I think internally we also need to have a conversation before you go too far.
May I also interject there with regards to what Gordon is saying? This was not supposed to be a design that was going to be reviewed by engineering. This was at request of staff. What we were doing is we were just laying out the area and showing that there is the proper amount of area for the parking. So this really was not supposed to be a part of our submittal. This was just a concept for what we were trying to achieve with the city rather than being a part of our submittal. And we're not obligated to design it or develop it. What we were trying to do is work with the city to have the space for 80 parking spots on that side of the park.
I have a quick question. On the side setbacks with the, in the corner, the 15 feet they want versus if there's a garage 25, what does the code say we have to provide?
20.
We only have to give 20, and then it's a variance to 15?
Right, so on a street side, on a corner street side, it's generally 20. That's what the code requires. So the 25 would be in addition to our code requirement.
For me personally, the reason why we have those on corners, you guys, just if we think about when you're driving through, it makes the neighborhood feel less dense. And so I think that, I don't know, you're talking about how this is going to be the heart of Fox Hollow and the gem of the neighborhood, but then you're trying to make it look more dense by putting 15-foot setbacks on corners. So I'm just, just wanted to get that clarification. Thanks.
So, Mayor, I think that if the applicant is willing to let our staff look at it to see if they can actually make that a feasible parking lot, then that's one thing. But if not, then I think that we approve it without accepting that as open space for city-owned open space. Are they willing?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Excuse me, can Ivory Homes, the purchaser of the property, have a couple moments for comments?
Yeah, that's great.
Evening, Council. Brian Prince with Ivory Development. I just want to clarify, I'm going to take this, what you're asking. I was under the impression, I think we misinterpreted the MDA as far as the what the MDA allows for a variance on the setbacks. So if that's, so I think we can make the 25-foot to garage work with the front plane of the house at 20. I just want to clarify what you're countering on the corner side setback.
So for me personally, and I'm one of the 5, for me personally, if you have a garage with a side entry, it also needs to meet the 25-foot. If you don't, then I'm okay with the 15-foot, but that's me. I'm one of 5.
So
I'm okay with 20 and then 25 if it's a garage.
So if we've got a home on a corner, but the garage is on the interior side of the lot?
Basically, the garage is facing. Then it would be a 15.
15. It's only in the event that we put the garage on the, yeah,
So you have the front of the house here and the garage
coming in off the side.
off the other road.
Yeah. I am totally okay with that.
Entrance on the other road. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And so that is the only scenario in which the corner side setback would be 25. That's totally fine.
So that's Michael's.
So you're good with these?
Yeah. The second question I made, just clarification from Kevin, the open space for the parking lot, is that a requirement per the MDA as?
You know,
for neighborhood 5, is that
correct? I mean, it's been a couple of years since I discussed this in DRC and this specific issue with the parking lot. Sarah is much more aware of what the MDA is and what the MDA requirements are, so I think she'd be more qualified to speak on that. But that's my recollection of that conversation we had a long time ago about that.
Because if I've attended meetings off and on, I've never had anybody say anything good about this parking lot. If it's not required, I don't understand why we're trying to force it onto the city. I think
It was originally part of the big park and trying to allow access into your big park, into the big regional park. So it was really both of us working together to try to make this work, is all it was.
Okay.
So it's not something we have to do, but I don't want to have open space up against that road where we're going to cause parking issues in the neighborhood. So if it's not a parking lot, if it's not going to work, if we're not going to have parking there, there's going to be a fence so that people cannot access the park from that side.
So, yeah, the evolution of this comes from the original plan that was being proposed showed the parallel parking, or I'm sorry, the 90-degree parking all along there. And
Yeah, we
so
saw that.
that was anticipated as being spots, parking spots along the roadway. And so this has been the evolution to this point where you were trying to get that cul-de-sac in on the south end of the property, which fundamentally shifted the parking and kind of grouped the parking together in that triangular piece. And so, you know, based on the request of the council, which was to provide parking to the park, you know, and access to the park, it's kind of evolved to where it is now.
Yeah.
So I don't think, you know, I don't think, I think we'd like an opportunity to look at that and see how it goes, rather than just, you know, withdraw it completely, because I think there's fundamentally some value to the community in having some parking there. It may not be as much, and it may require us to get creative with engineering, but I think some is better than none. But I recall when we did discuss this last time that this side would probably be more the locals parking in this area and the people, in the surrounding neighborhoods parking here rather than.
No, it was intended to be parking for the mountain bikers, so that they could have basically trailhead parking, so through the mountain biking area and then up into the trails, up into the hills.
One thing that could be considered is if it's approved as it is, we're not necessarily designing it tonight, and it would be an addition to the park, and so whether there's a fence or parking lot or trail or green space, all of those things could be designed and discussed at a future date as we get to that point with the park. So we don't necessarily need to, I mean, even if it's accepted or not accepted, we don't necessarily need to make all those decisions tonight.
I think Councilmember Barch's motion will work. Said it in the alternative, approve it if the parking will work. If it doesn't work, then don't approve the dedication, correct? That's what you wanted to make in your motion. Would that not work?
For me personally, like even if it doesn't work as a parking lot, if we don't accept it, it's gone forever, and we could do something with it, or we could fence it. At least we have like various options, but if we deny it, it's just gone forever. And I'm not trying, I'm just sharing my opinion. That's just my concern, is it would be gone forever, and we could never use it for anything. But if we decided it didn't work for a parking lot, and we wanted to block off access so people didn't get through the streets, we could put fences in there at that point too. Anyway.
Okay. Any other questions? Entertain a motion.
You guys don't want mine, so
go for it, Chris.
All right, I'll try.
On fencing, I know they want solid on the bottom and semi-private on the top. Does anybody have a concern with that?
No, I think we're okay
As long
with
as they
that.
work with the HOA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lucky for them.
All right. I move that we approve Fox Hollow Neighborhood 5 preliminary plat, item 5 on the agenda. Changing the setbacks, the front setback to, or the front garage, or garage setback to 25 feet, with the front plane of the house being at 20. I think that covers the garage. But it would still be that'd still be the same thing. If it goes to the garage, it has to be 25 feet, so.
Whether on the front or the side.
Whether on the front or the side. And accepting the dedication of the 1.1 acres of open space.
Fencing.
Oh, and approving the variation on the fencing to semi-private along Wildlife and Village Parkway. Oh yeah, definitely, I'd like that one. The notes that it would be noted on all the plats and titles that there will be lights and performances and loud noises, and you can word that better than I just did, but
you get the gist.
That they'll be aware that they're moving in next to a performance park. So.
And all staff findings and conditions.
And all staff findings and conditions.
Okay.
This is why I didn't want to do it.
I have a first from Councilman Porter.
Second.
I have a second from Councilman Podeska. Any further discussion on the
Point
motion?
of clarification, so that does allow a side setback of 15 feet?
As long as there's not a garage.
Okay.
Would you be willing to accept an amendment to your motion that the fencing be approved by the HOA?
He did.
No, he didn't
No.
say approval by the HOA.
That the fencing, or that the...
Private with semi-private be approved by the HOA?
That the semi, with the condition that the semi-private be accepted by the HOA, or that they provide an approval.
So you have
An amended first
Second.
and an amended second. Any further discussion?
Did you accept, I'm sorry, just to
Yes.
clarify, did you
Yes.
accept the open space?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Councilman Podeska.
Aye.
Councilman Porter.
Aye.
Councilwoman Barch.
Nay.
Councilman McComber.
Nay.
Councilman Wilden.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-2. Okay, item 6.
Mayor and council, the reason I wanted to bring this to you tonight is we don't have a budget amendment scheduled.
Thank you,
I
Scouts,
believe.
for attending.
I'll wait a second.
Pick a good one. Thanks. Diehards.
Yes.
Okay. Now, item 6.
We discussed this last week with the grant from Central Utah. I wanted to get the council's authorization to move forward with the contract for the installation of the fixed network. However, the actual budget amendment, as we discussed, to add the $30,000 to the existing budget won't, I think Shalice is coming
In November.
November. So that, we wanted to kind of get an approval from you, even though the actual budget amendment won't come till the November meeting. Obviously, we won't, those invoices won't come till then, but we wanted to authorize them to proceed. It's, you know, it's a long process. We want to get started.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the Itron Hydro Specialties Company, AMI Advanced Metering Infrastructure quote purchase for fixed base network system of an additional $30,000.
Right, it's a total of
A total of 141,
of which 50,000 is a grant, and there's an existing budget item for 64,000. So I should clarify that the budget amendment would be for
an additional,
would be for 80,000, although there'd be 50,000 of revenue to offset portions of that.
Okay. So with the figures just outlined, with the addition coming in the budget amendment.
First from Councilwoman Comber, second from Councilwoman Barch. The attorney wants to prolong this.
I'm so sorry. I haven't said much tonight, so.
You've earned 2 minutes, go.
The purchasing policy of the city requires contracts in excess of $25,000 to be approved by the council. So if you can make the condition on your motion that just the city, or actually delegate that contract approval to staff based on the approved templates that we've used in the past.
I'll amend my first to include directing staff to approve the contract once finalized, based on these numbers.
I'll accept the amendment.
Yeah, we have an amended first, amended second. Any further discussion? Councilman Podeska?
Aye.
Comber?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Barch?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Hey,
Jeremy?
Mark, I know you want us to go to closed session,
Yes.
correct? Okay, I will entertain a motion for closed session.
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? No.
Sue is having a water problem.